Hello and welcome to the Coming Down to Earth with Spirit podcast with me, your host, David Hale. In the podcast, we'll be talking about mediumship and all things spiritual in a down to earth and honest kind of way, with a touch of humour also. So I hope you can join me on my podcast journey so you can learn from my own spiritual journey and experiences with spirit in the aim to help you on your own spiritual journey, or it may just be to answer any of those questions that you have about the spiritual world. So join me now as we get into this episode. Hello everybody and welcome to an episode in the Spiritual Impacts series. I hope you're well and thanks again for joining me. Now, I've hummed and hawed about doing this episode, and in fact I've tried to record this about 15 times, no lie, and I keep getting tongue-tied and losing my train of thought because I've been a little bit unsure as to whether to do this episode or not because of the topic, because of what we're talking about, because it sounds a bit mad. And the topic is famous connections, meaning connecting to those in spirit who were famous, are famous, celebrities, that kind of thing. Because although this is a spiritual impacts episode because of how the connections impacted me, many people have asked me, have I ever had a celebrity or famous person in spirit come and communicate with me? And the answer is yes. And as you guys know, I'm always honest and I will always speak from my experience. And I've heard other mediums out there, especially the old school mediums, who say it's not possible to communicate with them unless you've got their relatives sat in front of you and you're giving them a reading. And I've learned that that's absolutely not true. And obviously I'll explain it as I go through the episode. So now, this episode is, another reason I hummed and hard about doing it is because I don't want it to sound like it's coming from a place of ego, because it's not. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, look who I can communicate with and look who I've spoken to in the spirit world and I'm so special, because it's not that at all. But I'm aware there are mediums out there, especially social media YouTubers who, as soon as a celebrity passes away, they're doing a video channeling them. That happens quite a lot. But this is not what this is. This is just to explain that communication with famous people, celebrities, can happen. And again, the only reason I'm talking about it is because I've heard so many people say, no, it's not possible. You can't do that. I've never experienced it, so you can't do that. No, it can happen. And I know I know people who have sat in a development circle who have managed to communicate with someone famous in spirit, and the tutor have kicked them out of the circle because that tutor doesn't believe it's possible because they haven't experienced it themselves, which is completely unfair. I think you'll agree. So I'm just going to explain again, talk of my own experience about how it's worked for me, and what the process was. So, actually, I'll start by saying I know it sounds completely mad, right? Even me talking about it now, it sounds completely mad that I have communicated with those in spirit who were famous celebrities, but again, this is my experience, right? So that's it. Right, so let's get on with it before I end up having to re-record this again for like the 16th time. So when I first started developing, I had heard mediums who I'd watched on YouTube or interviews on TV or whatever were sometimes asked, is it possible that you can connect with Elvis or, I don't know, Princess Diana or whoever? And their answer would always be no, because of what I explained earlier, which was, why would they communicate with me? I haven't got their loved one, relative sat in front of me having a reading. Why would they communicate with me? And because of that, of seeing that kind of response, I was always of that mindset as well. I always thought the same thing, because I did have family members and friends ask me, because when they found out that I was a medium, they would ask and they would say, can you connect with Michael Jackson or, the Princess Diana or whoever? And my answer to them would be, Well, no. Why would they? Their relative is not sat in front of me. I'm not giving a relative reading. Why on earth would a famous celebrity come and and communicate with me? So that was always my my answer, my thought process. But as you guys know, as I've said before, I like to experience things myself before I can fully believe that something is real or exists or whatever it might be. So until a celebrity communicated with me, that was my answer. No, they cannot. And the first time I was proved wrong by spirit was when the late and great Karen Carpenter had communicated with me. And I'm laughing saying it because I know it sounds completely nuts, right? But spirits will always, they teach me lessons. As many medium knows, your spirit team will teach you a lesson when you're needing that lesson to be taught. And, at the very beginning of my development, and still now, I'm just very inquisitive. I want to know this. I want to know that. I want to experience that kind of thing. I want to experience that kind of thing. And, these celebrity connections happened around a time where I was really inquisitive. I wanted to know more. I want to know what was possible. Is this possible? And so Spirit gave me this lesson. Now, with Karen, actually, first thing what I will say is whenever a celebrity has communicated with me, it's not because I asked them to. Again, I refer back to these YouTube mediums who, again, as soon as suddenly a celebrity passes away, they're straight on YouTube channeling them, as they say, bringing them through. I'm communicating with this person, and they purposefully and proactively go out of their way to pull that spirit in, right? That celebrity in. That's never how it's been with me. Again, whenever a celebrity has contacted or communicated with me, I've been minding my own business, either like meditating or I'm exercising, and I zone out and they link onto that and whatever. So I've never sat down ever and said, right, I'm going to communicate with that celebrity today. I'm going to communicate with that celebrity. I want to talk to that. I've never done that, because in my head I'm like, why would I want to? What would I get out of doing that? If they give me information, what am I going to do with it? Do you know what I mean? So that's not how it's been. So I'll give you three examples. I've communicated with quite a few celebrities, but I'm going to give you just 3 examples. Now again, so we come back to Karen Carpenter. Now, as a kid, the Carpenters' music was played in the house quite often. My mum's a big Carpenters fan, and I do like some of their music as well. My mum and I used to watch the Karen Carpenter film. We've watched it many times together, and she reminded me after this particular experience happened that, as a child, I was particularly drawn to Karen. Don't know why. I don't necessarily remember it because I was very young at the time. But yeah, I was drawn to her for some reason. And so, some of those songs I will still listen to from Karen as well, and the Carpenters in general, because Karen's voice is just spectacular in my opinion. And for whatever reason, there was a period of a couple of days where I don't think I was off work, or I had some days off or something. And I was on YouTube and I came across, wasn't searching for it, but I came across a documentary on the Carpenters. So I watched it. And then, as many of you know that do watch YouTube, you end up in a YouTube rabbit hole where you watch one video and then it leads on to another one and then leads on to another one. And then 4 hours later, you're still watching videos. And this was over a couple of days. I don't know why I was drawn to watch them again. No idea. But I did. And then it was that same week that this happened that it was one day that I thought, I need to meditate today because I've not meditated enough. I feel like I'm a bit, I just need to calm my mind a little bit. So I sat at my desk in my office room, and I just kind of got into my meditation zone. And all of a sudden, I saw Karen's face in my head. And I tried to push it away because I'm thinking, no, surely I'm just seeing her face because I saw it on a video yesterday. Maybe that's why I'm seeing her. So I tried to push it away. But she kept coming in. And I know now from the way I see spirit in my mind, she was coming through just as I would see your loved one if you were sat in front of me and I was giving you a reading. She came through exactly the same way and I saw her in a similar way. And I thought, right, what is she doing here? So I asked her, and her response was, well, it's because you're so interested. And I guess, she'd see me watch multiple documentaries in a couple of days on YouTube. So she was there. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to record what she says. And what I mean by that is I'm going to repeat what she says into a recording device, just so I've got a recording that's date stamped and time stamped, so I can keep the recording. And if anyone asks any questions, I can say, look, this is date stamped and time stamped here, so deal with it. So I got my phone, and before that, I've been working on some other cases with a group of girls, missing persons cases and things, and I'd record everything into the voice note function on my phone, and I had loads of them on there. And so I thought I'd do the same thing with this connection. Again, just so I've got a record of it. And before we started having a conversation, she said to me, what we say here is just between me and you. And I thought, right, okay, fair enough. So we're having a conversation, and because of that, I'm not going to go into details about what she said. Again, just with respect to Karen, I'm not going to go into details about what the conversation was about, but there was nothing salacious or sinister or anything saucy in there. It was just a 22-minute conversation that we had. And as always, whether it's a celebrity connection or your own or your loved one connection, I will always ask for evidence to back up and validate that it was her indeed that I'm communicating with. So I asked her, I know a bit about her, having grown up listening to her music and that kind of thing, watching the documentaries. So I asked her to give me a bit of evidence, and she did. And it's something I didn't recognize. It was something simple like a month. I said, give me something. And she gave me a month that was significant. Now, although I know things about Karen, I don't know the ins and outs of her life, right? And so I didn't recognize what the month was. So once we finished the conversation, I went online, researched, and I found that the month was actually validating something for her. So I knew that was validation, that it was her that had come forward. Anyhow, about a month later, I was clearing out my phone because I've got so much rubbish on there. You've got photographs and different bits and pieces on your phone. I thought, I'm going to clear some out. So I went onto my voice notes. I thought, I'm going to delete some of these because they're downloaded on my computer anyway. So to free up my phone, I'm going to delete some of these recordings from other things that I had done. And I saw Karen's recording there. I thought, you know what? Let me just listen back to that to see, just remind myself what the conversation was. So I pressed play on the recording, and this is what I heard. And that went on for the full 22 minutes of the recording. So to my horror, what I had spoken into my phone, nothing had been recorded at all. So I told my mum about the whole situation, and she went, well, David, what did she say to you at the beginning of that conversation? She said, what is said is between you and her. And not a word of what was said is recorded. So even to this day, I cannot remember hardly anything that she said to me. And I don't have the recording. Obviously, the recording is there, but it's not recorded a single thing. That has not happened with any other recording that I have done with anything else. That is the only recording ever that has not picked up anything that I said, or recorded anything that I said. So once again, that little thing there with her telling me this is between me and her, that little thing and the fact that actually nothing was picked up is validation to me that Karen Carpenter did in fact make contact with me. So that's the first example. And when I told that story to some of my students in my circle, they got that chill and that goosebump feeling, because that is, to me, and even to me, listen back to that, that's just mad. Because it's not happened on any other recording that I've ever done on that phone. Anyhow, now the next example is, and people get quite excited when they hear about this, is my communication with Freddie Mercury. Again, I feel quite mad saying it because it does sound mad, right? And this was in I think it was during the lockdown, because we were all banged up at home, weren't we? And it's when we had that really hot weather and we were all banged up indoors. And myself and my other half were living in a flat in London at the time, and we didn't have no garden. It was just a balcony over the car park. So it was one particular day. It was scorching hot. So I thought, I'm going to go outside. I'm just going to lay on the balcony and just get some sun and just relax. So I did. Put my headphones on. Again, just minding my own business. And a couple of minutes in, I saw Freddie Mercury's face in my head. And again, I saw him the same way as I would see any of your loved ones who communicated with me when you're having a reading. Now, I've got to say, with Freddie, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not respectfully, I'm not a follower of Freddie Mercury or Queen, not my style of music. Again, a little bit before my time as well. So I have no interest in his, well, obviously we know the songs, but respectfully, I had no interest in the band, right? And all I knew about Freddie was, I knew Freddie Mercury wasn't his real name, but didn't know what his real name was. And I knew he was born in India and he's part of Queen. And obviously how he died and what he died from, because that's quite publicised. But anything apart from that, I ain't got a clue, right? So I saw him pop into my head, and as usual, I thought, you know what? I'm asking for evidence here, so I know I'm not completely going out of my mind, that this is you stepping forward. And once again, I got my phone and I spoke into it what he was giving me within the mind. So I asked him to give me information, and he gave me names, dates, all different bits and pieces. Again, nothing that I would recognise or know. So I knew that whenever I spoke into the phone, I'd have to go and research afterwards just to validate that it was him. And at the end of the communication, he kept giving me Beirut, Beirut, Beirut. And I thought, what is this? I know you're born in India, but I don't think Beirut. My geography is shocking, right? And even in England, my geography is shocking. But yeah, I didn't have a clue. I thought, what is that? I don't know what that is. I tried to research and I couldn't find anything connecting him to Beirut. So I thought, maybe he's trying to give me another name beginning with B. And then turns out I found that his surname was actually Bulsara. Thought maybe then he's just trying to give me a B name, and I was just picking up Beirut, right? And before I go into the validation of it, this was on the 2nd of August. I'm very clear on that. This happened on the 2nd of August, this communication. And it gave me Beirut. So I recorded it, I parked it, I thought, okay, that's fine. And then 2 days later, the 4th of August, we don't normally watch the news, me and my other half. If the news comes on, I turn it over because I can't be bothered with it or the negativity and things. And the news happened to be on, and a news bulletin came on saying there's been a massive explosion in Beirut. And it was that explosion, I think it happened on the bay. And when you look, and obviously it was filmed, when you look at it, it's like an atomic bomb had gone off, if you remember that. That was the 4th of August. That was 2 days after Freddie communicated with me and told me Beirut, Beirut, Beirut. So, I can't necessarily say that that's what he was trying to warn me about, because what can I do about that? No, I'm not in Beirut, and I can't do anything even if I was in Beirut about it. But my feeling with that connection is, again, coming back to doubting yourself. And when I have those moments of doubting myself, again, Spirit give me those lessons. So it's a little bit like, for whatever reason, Freddie Mercury came through to me and told me about Beirut. So when it did happen, I can look at it and go, well, actually, I must have something. If I can pick that information up and then it happened 2 days later, it's telling me something. It's teaching me to trust what I hear, what I see, what I feel, no matter where it comes from. And I think that's the lesson for me. Why he chose me to communicate with, I don't know. Maybe I was just a clear channel for him. Maybe that he knows I am a music lover. so I would recognise him, although I wasn't. No, I'm not a fan. Or maybe it's just, both being from that, the gay community. I don't know whether he picked up on that and knew that, and so knew I'd have that thing in common. I don't know, but that was my experience with Freddie Mercury. And the last example I will give was with the actress Naya Rivera, who sadly passed away. She was the actress from Glee, and again, I had maybe watched one episode of Glee. I did not follow Glee. And it was very big at the time, that program, but I wasn't a fan, didn't watch it, so I didn't know anything about Naya Rivera either. It's not in my realm of interest. Do you know what I mean? I hadn't seen her in any other TV or film or anything like that. So obviously I knew who she was and that she appeared in it, but that's all I knew. Again, knew nothing about her, because I have no interest, respectfully. And again, the news was on, and it was, I think it might have been that day, or yeah, no, it was. I'm sure it was that day that she went missing in the water. And as soon as I saw that news bulletin, sadly, I knew she'd passed. That might sound obvious to some people, because some people might have thought the same thing. But, people always hold up hope that she drifted off and she got out of the water and was stranded somewhere alive. But sadly, I knew that she had passed. And unlike some of these other, again, YouTube mediums, I'm not the person to go on YouTube and say, do you know what? I'm really sorry. I feel she's passed. I feel this is where she is, and then you're going to find her. And that's not me, right? I'm not about to go and do that, because I am very aware that that it requires sensitivity, and people still have that hope. So I'm not about to go dashing other people's hopes of finding her alive. That's not me as a person, and not why I do what I do. But I just felt that she had passed. And it might have been 2 days or 3 days or something like that after she had gone missing, that again, I was at my desk doing some meditation, and I saw her pop in my head, and I thought, okay, here we go. I don't know why she's coming through to me, but I can see her very clearly in my mind. And for whatever reason, she's chosen to come and communicate with me. So again, as usual, got my phone, recorded into it everything she gave me. Again, I asked her for specific evidence, which I then had to go and research afterwards. She gave me things like people's middle names and dates and all this kind of stuff. And I researched it all, and it was all correct. And I'm thinking again, why is she coming through to me? What is she? Why? I don't know. I don't understand it. Not that I'm complaining about it, but you do think to yourself, why are these people communicating with me? And during that communication, she kept giving me number 4. I thought, I don't know what number 4 is. What is number 4? And I wasn't understanding what it was. Just gave me number 4. And I then realized that I think her son had just turned 4 or was 4 years of age or something when she went missing. And I was sadly later found deceased. And I thought that must be what it is then. But then it didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel like that's what it was. It felt like 4 was something else. And anyway, I kind of put it to bed, and I thought, I know she's going to be found. I knew she was going to be found. I know she hadn't just gone and never to be seen again. I knew she was going to be found. But again, sadly, I knew she'd be found. They'd be finding her body, basically. But again, I didn't announce it to the world. I didn't go on my Facebook page and say, "Oh, look what I know, and look what I found out." Again, that's not me. That's not how I operate. And so I put it to bed, and it was then about 3 weeks later, something like that. I was on Facebook and I came across an article about her. So I clicked on it and I started reading it, and there was the validation. I figured out, the article showed me that 4 days from the date that she'd communicated with me, she was found. So what she was saying to me was, during that communication, that she was going to be found in 4 days' time, and she was, because I checked the dates of the communication, and it was in the July, I think. And yeah, so she was found 4 days after our communication, and that's what the 4 days was. Again, nothing I could have done about it. I don't live in the States. I ain't got a clue about where that whole area. There's nothing I could do about it. But she was telling me that she was going to be found in 4 days' time, which she was. And I look back at all the communications I've had with these celebrities, and it was just a short period in which it happened. And there was another maybe 3 or 4 celebrities that I have communicated with as well, and they've all given me evidence. Again, I always look for it just to validate in my own mind that it is them communicating with me, but it was in a short period of time, and it's not happened for about 2 years. So I look back at it, and my feeling is the reason that they have communicated with me, it was to prove something to me. It was to prove that certain things are possible. When people tell you no, it can't happen, it was almost like their way of saying no, it can. Here's your knowledge, here's your education, here's your experiencing it for yourself. And as I said at the beginning of the video, Spirit do give me lessons. My Spirit team do give me lessons. So when I am doubting myself, they will give me something to prove. No, David, shut up. You can do it. Have this, and then validate it. So for me, I guess it was just a lesson that it does happen. And that's my message to you. If you're told that something doesn't happen, well, allow yourself to experience it. Don't just take it at face value, because there are people out there with ego who don't want you to experience certain things because they haven't experienced it themselves. And unfortunately, that does come from some of the teachers, some of the mentors and tutors out there, especially the old school mentors and tutors that haven't experienced this thing or that thing. And because they haven't experienced it, they try to project that on you to say, no, you can't experience it either. Well, go and experience these things. Allow yourself to experience these things. Don't force them. Allow them to happen. And when they happen, no one can take away from you your experience. And I always say to people, don't allow someone else to take away your experience. Unless they've got your eyeballs, your ears, your body, your brain, they can't tell you what you experience, what you see, what you hear, and what you feel. You experience it for yourself. That is your experience. So just keep that in mind. So again, this video isn't to, be all egoic and look at who I can communicate with, because I can talk about more celebrities which have blown my mind once they've communicated with me. But that's not what this is about. This isn't about me showing off, saying, look what I can do. Because again, since all these things have happened, they've not happened for about 2 years. So it might happen again in the future. I don't know, but it doesn't need to, because I know now through those experiences that it can happen. You can communicate with those in spirit that are famous. And why not? If you think about it, just because they're famous, no, they're still a spirit. They're still a person. They go to the same place as we all do. So why can't they communicate with us? And in my experience with these celebrities that have communicated with me, and some of them have been really famous, they've never come through going, oh, look how famous I am. They've never come through with any air of arrogance or anything. They've come through as a normal person. Do you know what I mean? So they're still spirit, whether people want to believe it or not, they're still a person. But that's it. I hope you found that interesting. And I'm glad I was able to get it out and talk about it, because again, I was humming and hawing. Do I do it? Do I not do it? But it's had an impact on my journey. It's taught me certain things. So why not share that lesson with you as well? But that's it. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you all again soon. So there you have it. That's the episode finished. Hopefully you enjoyed what you heard, and if so, there are more episodes in the Spiritual Impact series to come. So do stick around if you're interested in learning more from my own personal experiences with spirit to help you on your own spiritual path. But look after yourselves, and I'll speak to you all soon.